I just want you all to know in advance that I tried to start off this makeup look doing something neutral, and now I have 2 rhinestones glued to my face, so that's cool. Hi guys, I interrupt your regularly scheduled programming to give you guys a very, very special announcement. Holiday merch. I've been so excited about this. I want to just say a huge thank you to everybody who's supported the 2 merch launches of the year so far. It has been so amazing. I've really enjoyed designing and releasing those collections, and thank you so much to everyone who's supported and has been sending me pictures of you wearing them. I'm super excited to announce this year's Christmas/holiday merch, and even more excited to announce that this will be a charity merch drop. 50% of the proceeds from this year's limited edition collection will be going to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. I knew I wanted to choose a cause that was medical related and just something that's very close to my heart in general, and I'm just really excited about this one. So this one is for the Dewy Hoes, or the Dewy Ho Ho Hoes, because that is what the shirt says. This year's holiday design is an offshoot of the original Dewy merch from this year. Same aesthetic lettering and everything, except instead of stars around the Dewy logo, it's snowflakes. So if you're a Dewy Ho Ho Ho, this one's for you. I also tried to offer it in some colorways that were popular with the original Dewy merch, as well as some like Christmas/holiday themed colorways. I'm super excited about this. It should be in my store already, bonfire.com/store/juliamazzucato, and it will be limited edition, available until the end of December. Thank you so much in advance from me and from St. Jude's to anybody who chooses to support this. Love you guys so much, and happy holidays. Hey guys, it's Julia. Welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I wanted to take a trip down memory lane. I've seen this sentiment echoed a lot lately, and it's that people really miss the old beauty YouTube. I got into makeup a little bit past the sphere of like the OG beauty YouTube when there were like 5 influencers and all those OG makeup products. I missed that first wave. I got into makeup and started watching beauty YouTube around the time that like Modern Renaissance was a new release. Everyone was hyping up the Morphe 35O palette. Naked palettes were the shit, and now naked palettes are literally shit. But I remembered that there were these cult favorite OG YouTube makeup products where everybody loved them and everyone hyped them up. And I've tried out many of them, and I have thoughts about many of them. So I asked you guys on Twitter, what is a makeup product you think of when I say OG beauty YouTube? And you guys did not disappoint. I have a list of 18 cult favorite bestseller OG YouTube makeup products. I especially think that we have evolved so much in terms of like our taste in makeup. Quality of makeup is so much better now. I think people have a lot higher standards for makeup products, and yeah, we've come a long way. So if you want to see if the OG makeup products stack up to today's standards, keep watching. I think this is actually the like best-selling or top-selling mascara in the entire world, which is crazy to me because I don't love it. The Too Faced Better Than Sex mascara. I have tried this mascara many times. I've actually never owned a full size just because Too Faced sells Better Than Sex mascara in literally every Too Faced trial set, so I'm sure pretty much everyone's tried it at this point. But yeah, super cult favorite mascara. Everyone was either using that or Benefit. Oh god, I don't remember what it was called, but it was awful too. Disgusting! I really do not like the formula of Too Faced Better Than Sex mascara, which kind of sucks because I really like the brush a lot. It's one of ththose very fluffy, thick, voluminous brushes, and I feel like it does dispense the formula really well into the eyes. So I actually don't mind how the mascara applies and looks when you first wear it, but it is one of the flakiest mascaras I've ever tried. So throughout the day as I was wearing Better Than Sex, I would just notice black flakes collecting in like the trough of my under eyes, and it's not a cute look. So waterproof version is not much better, and also that is absolute hell to get off your eyes. So in my opinion, Too Faced Better Than Sex is not worth the hype at all. One of the many questionable products of OG YouTube. Number 2, you would be hard pressed to watch a single video in 2017 without seeing Laura Mercier translucent powder in anything. Beauty YouTube just unanimously agreed that this and Coty Airspun were the 2 powders that you had to have in your collection. I think the Laura Mercier powder is actually very good. It is one of the most mattifying powders I've ever tried. So if you don't like matte skin, oh how far we've come. So this powder was my holy grail, and I think it is one of the best powders for really locking in your makeup. It's also really nice because it has a little bit of a blurring effect too, so I feel like it makes your skin look nice and soft and kind of baby smooth, but this will take down the shine of even a nice luminous foundation. So I no longer use it every single day, but it is a very foolproof powder for me. So if I know I need my makeup to just stay in place forever, this has never let me down, whereas many other powders have. The Laura Mercier gets like a 7 out of 10 for me. It's an awesome powder. It's just not necessarily what I'm looking for anymore. And I think it was probably one of the best powders on the market back then. But now there's a ton of better options, if that makes sense. Ugh, Armani Luminous Silk Foundation. This is such an interesting product to me because I feel like matte skin was really in back then, but people still love the Luminous Foundation, and it's still definitely a favorite amongst pro makeup artists today. Very pricey formula. I believe it's upwards of $60 a bottle. It's a really beautiful foundation. I do see why people really enjoy it. It looks so nice in skin, like nice and medium coverage. Soft luminous finish, but it's not aggressively dewy, so I think it works for a lot of different people. Is it worth $60 though? I don't think so. I think there are so many amazing foundation options now, especially at the drugstore. So for me, the ABH Luminous Foundation looks almost exactly the same when you apply it on the skin. Almost lasts a little bit longer, I would say, and it's like $20 less expensive. So for me, I can see why Luminous Silk is such a popular foundation, and like if it works for you and it's a tried and true product, I don't see a reason why you should switch it out. But for me, I've tried it, it's good. If somebody was trying to find a new foundation and they were between Luminous Silk and something else, I would say you can definitely get something else for a similar effect and a lot less money. NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer, everyone used this before Shape Tape came out. When I first got into makeup, Shape Tape was like the new concealer that everybody had to have, so I kind of missed the wave where everyone was using NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer, but it was still something that really trickled into people's favorites videos, especially like top 5 concealers. I just didn't really think it was anything super special. It's a concealer. It does its job just fine. I definitely don't think it's a hard concealer to dupe at all. Catrice Liquid Camouflage Formula is probably the closest thing I've tried to that concealer, and the Laura Mercier Flawless Fusion Concealer is very similar to that as well. So Radiant Creamy for me is kind of like Luminous Silk. Like, I see why people love it, and I don't think it's bad by any means, but I also don't think it's like the end-all be-all of concealers. Urban Decay All Nighter Setting Spray, of course. Again, I think it's achieved the status of like Laura Mercier powder, where it was just everyone's favorite setting spray, hands down. It is a great setting spray. I think it does a great job of locking in your makeup. I said this before, but I think that powder and setting spray do a lot more to prolong the wear of your makeup than primer does. That being said, I don't think that Urban Decay's All Nighter Spray is the only setting spray that's gonna do this effect. In particular, I really enjoy the Gerard Cosmetics Slay All Day Setting Spray. If you want a more luminous effect, the Anastasia Dewy Set is awesome. Catrice makes a really good setting spray as well that pretty much does the exact same thing as All Nighter, and it's like less than $10. So again, like many of the other things in here, it's great, but it's dupeable. This one I have a strong opinion on. I stan this product. I actually don't have it with me because it's in my dorm right now, and I use it every single day. It's my favorite cleanser in my collection. Fresh Soy Face Cleanser. Iconic. This is another one of those products where, kind of like the Too Faced Born This Way, it's really easy to try this cleanser without having to pay for it because it's given out as a sample in so many different situations, whether it's as a Sephora free sample or one of those like points perks. I think it's just a really great skincare product and versatile cleanser for pretty much any different skin type. It's very gentle but very effective. The ingredients are amazing. It always leaves my skin very, very clean but not feeling stripped and tight. So yeah, Fresh Soy Face Cleanser, I've hooked many people onto it. I don't think a lot of these cult favorite products are 100% worth the hype, but that one is. Number 7, Becca highlighters, particularly Champagne Pop, but I think pretty much all Becca Shimmering Skin Perfectors fall under this list because those were super hyped up. Everyone said that Becca highlighters were the best highlighter formula ever. They're very nice highlighters. They feel a little bit kind of like the ColourPop Super Shock formula. They're a bit creamier and more dimethicone filled, so they feel very, very soft to the touch. They are super fragile. I dropped a Champagne Pop on the ground on a carpet, which carpeted surfaces normally do not break makeup products, but it was over. It just shattered all over the carpet. But yeah, those highlighters are great, and because they are more of a creamy texture, they really do melt into the skin, which is hard to find in a powder product. $38 for a highlighter is a lot of money, and because they are so soft, I feel like you do go through them pretty quickly. So if you were just like gonna buy one highlighter and you have one highlighter that you use every day, I think the Becca one would probably be a little bit more of a spendy thing. I actually don't currently own any Becca highlighters, but I think I want to pick one up because I've just really been missing Champagne Pop TBH, and Jaclyn Hill no longer gets paid for it, so. And Number 8, I forgot that these existed, so that tells you how I feel about them. The Lorac Pro Palettes. I don't know where Lorac has been. I've not been paying attention to them, granted, but I haven't seen them on Tread Mood in a hot minute. So they, kind of like Smashbox, are just like one of those kind of dead brands to me. But yeah, I remember when Lorac Pro Palettes were just the thing to have, especially those like holiday Pro Palettes that they came out with every year. Those launches, I feel like, were almost as big as the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Palettes that came out every year for holidays. The Lorac Shadow formula is one of the softest to the touch formulas I've ever tried, so they're very fun to swatch. They feel just super creamy and smooth. Because they are so soft, they do swatch extremely pigmented on the arm. So they kind of do remind me of Anastasia in terms of how they feel. Unfortunately, they are extremely soft and so pigmented that they're really, really not fun to work with. I feel that Anastasia shadows, while they are very soft and very pigmented within that softness, they're still very nice and blendable and just easy to diffuse. Whereas the Lorac ones kind of remind me of the OG Subculture formula, where it's just too much pigment concentrated in a small amount of powder. So when you put it onto the eyes, you get like a very harsh color deposition in one place, and then when you try to blend it out, it's just really, really hard to get that nice diffusion. Also, their shimmer formula is complete ass. So I can see why they were really hyped up back then. Even like 2, 3, 4 years ago, there weren't really that many shadow options out there. So I can see why people liked them, because they were one of the more pigmented offerings. But now you don't see anyone talk about them, because now pretty much all shadows are pigmented.
Literally so pigmented.
Pigmentation is like not super hard to create. It's just creating a good formula with all those markers of a good formula, and Lorac just had their pigmentation down and the soft feel. And I also forgot about these as well, but they were OG palettes in the beauty world. Too Faced Chocolate Bar and Sweet Peach palettes. I did used to own both of these palettes. In general, I feel like Too Faced's permanent products in their line are bounds and leaps better than their limited edition stuff. So of course I had to make a part 2 to the Tarte meme. Who do you think I am?
Wait, oh yes, wait a minute, Mr. Postman. Wait, hey, Mr. Postman. Oh yes, wait a minute, Mr. Postman. Yes. Hey, yeah.
One of the only Too Faced permanent palettes that I own is the Just Peachy Matte, and this is awesome. I think it was just everything I wanted the Sweet Peach palette to be, and this just is a cohesive, nice color scheme. But something about this formula I think is the best formula that Too Faced ever done. The Chocolate Bar palettes and Sweet Peach palettes had, in my opinion, the same formula, and ay caramba. It's a very, very dry formula. So while the original Anastasia formula is like very soft, very powdery, and very pigmented, I feel like Too Faced and Urban Decay were creating shadows that were pretty much the opposite of that, which was harder pressed shadows that didn't have as much powder kick-up and consequently did not have as much pigmentation. So they were, I guess, more user-friendly, but in my opinion, those shadows are muddy, and if those palettes came out today, they would definitely be a flop. Number 10, the NYX Soft Matte Lip Creams. Ooh, one of the OG matte liquid lipstick formulas to come out. NYX is one of those brands that just has so many different SKUs in their line, but I remember the soft matte lip creams were just so popular. A lot of people had every single shade. I think I've owned maybe like 4 or 5 different shades of those. They were actually not the most uncomfortable matte liquid lipsticks. They were a bit more on the sheer side, and I felt like they didn't really dry down completely matte. For lip colors, I wish I was more adventurous, but I pretty much always just go with nudes, and I feel like nude lipsticks aren't that hard to make. But somehow, NYX was just like, streaks. The lighter nude shades, I just tried to convince myself, like, no, these are great, but they were really, really, really streaky to a point where I would be building them up a lot to cover up that streakiness, and then they would look very heavy and crusty on the lips. Those are kind of an L, and for a collection of lip products that I felt like everybody had almost every single shade, I don't see anybody talking about them anymore. Oh, I miss this one, the Tarte Bloom palette. I used to own this palette, and I believe there was this viral Instagram post that I vividly remember where it was like the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette, Tarte Bloom, and the Morphe 35O, and then the caption was like, the 3 best palettes to ever be created.
No. Well,
I saw that post. I already owned the 35O and the Modern Renaissance, and I was like, okay, so I just need to buy the Tarte Bloom palette, and I did because of an Instagram post. I was dumb. That's actually a really nice palette. I can see why a lot of people like it because it definitely appeals to a very, very broad range of customers that Tarte definitely has. I think we get so wrapped up sometimes in the beauty world that we forget that pretty much 75% of the people who buy makeup are not buying colorful eyeshadows, are not buying like fun, funky, fresh color schemes. They're buying neutrals, and the Tarte Bloom palette filled that niche very well. I honestly really do not love Tarte's eyeshadow formula. I feel like the mattes in that palette, the lighter mattes were fine, the mid-tone mattes were okay, the darker mattes were very patchy, and was that my stomach? Ooh, but the color scheme was very nice, very understated, very office appropriate. Packaging was beautiful, and it's a very good palette for travel, so I can see why the hype was there. I just don't think that, again, it would be a palette that lines up to today's standards of eyeshadow, which is generally good stuff. YSL Touche Éclat Concealer. This is one of those few luxury makeup products that I feel like kind of bridges the gap between like old lady makeup and bougie young person makeup. This has such a cult following around it. It's more of a light coverage concealer, more meant to be something that enhances your brightness rather than actually covering up a ton of stuff. I tried this out recently and I actually really, really like this a lot. If you're somebody who loves Tarte Shape Tape, definitely not for you. It doesn't have a lot of coverage, so even like right now, I probably wouldn't be able to use this one just because I have dark circles and it's midterm week. But when I am a little bit more well rested and I just want something that's nice and subtle looking, I feel like concealer is always a dead giveaway that you're wearing more heavy makeup. So this is my favorite go-to for that. I think this is a really great product. Is it overpriced? Yes. Can you get things that do a pretty similar thing for a lot less money? There are plenty of Touche Éclat dupes, but I do like the original formula line. MAC Fix Plus. Haven't seen MAC in a while, but Fix Plus is something like, along with Beauty Blender everybody had in their collection. I've only ever owned like one tester size bottle of MAC Fix Plus. I never was somebody who like consistently used that product, but I am familiar with the formula and I know how it works. I used it only to foil my eyeshadows, but I think there's so many things you can use in place of that, namely water. I think water does a great job of foiling your eyeshadows, but if you do want to use a setting spray, I like the Mora Prime Plus. This is pretty much the exact same thing as MAC Fix Plus, right down to the scent. This is the closest dupe I've ever found. Fix Plus I don't think is a revolutionary product by any means, but I think it got people into the concept of using a wet brush with shimmery eyeshadows, and that was a revolutionary thing. So then people like tied Fix Plus to that and were like, you have to use Fix Plus to get this result. You really don't. Wet n Wild Comfort Zone palette.
Child. Anyway, so
this was kind of a banger and kind of awful at the same time, and I will explain what I mean by that. I bought this palette. I was so excited about it because like it's a $6 palette. You get a rush when you get a deal like that. The one shade in there that made me feel things was that, of course, the green brown duochrome that everyone loved. That is a really beautiful shade. They do have a new version of the Comfort Zone palette with a few more mattes in there, so it looks nice. But I've tried Wet n Wild's new eyeshadow formula and it's not great in my opinion. So that was a palette that I feel like everyone got swept up in, but again, I don't see it being used. I just feel like it's something that everyone like bought and then kind of forgot about. Too Faced Born This Way foundation, of course. I was pretty late to the game on this one, but it's always been a cult favorite product, and it's one of my favorite foundations in my collection. Again, kind of interesting to me that this is so hyped up because I feel like a lot of people back then really, really loved matte skin. Dewy skin was like not as big as it is today. I think the Luminous Silk crowd, the people who really like that foundation, also really like this foundation, and I can see why because they're fairly similar. Probably the most famous bronzer in the world, Benefit Hoola. Obviously I don't have like the full size of it, but yeah, it's a cult favorite bronzer. It's especially well known for being more on like the neutral tone side. I feel like a lot of bronzers back then were just straight up orange, and Hoola, it's a little bit more on like the neutral, almost verging on cool tone side, so you can kind of contour with it if you want to. I actually think it's a really great bronzer. I don't really buy from Benefit, so I'm not going to buy like a full-size Hoola once I'm done, especially because I feel like there are so many bronzers now that are a lot better than this. I think it's good. There's just more options now. However, I feel very differently about the NARS Orgasm Blush. That was a product that honestly, I never really saw the hype behind that specific blush. It wasn't the most unique thing ever. There are plenty of like peachy tone blushes with gold flecks in them, and I felt like the NARS one in particular, very hit and miss. I never owned a full size for myself. I believe I had one tester, and then whenever I would go to Sephora, I would swatch it or try it out on my cheeks, and I would either get a nice peachy tone flush with a little bit of gold in there, or I would get like straight up glitter. So I felt like it was a very inconsistent product. It's just not something you see anymore. I think the last time I heard of NARS Orgasm was when they came out with that Orgasm collection last time. I think it was earlier this year, and people freaked out about that. It's like Urban Decay's version of Naked. Just like, it's their thing. They keep doing it, but it's like there's so many options now that it's kind of irrelevant. I think that Urban Decay Naked 1, 2, 3, and Smoky, awful. I never understood the hype behind those. I felt like the mattes were just very, very underwhelming, kind of patchy. The shimmers had a lot of fallout to them, even though they weren't the most shiny thing, so I felt like you were getting very minimal impact for a lot of mess. And then I got the Naked Heat. That kind of changed my mind about the Naked palettes. I felt like that one was a step above in quality. I didn't get the Naked Reloaded because I thought it was butt ugly. Naked Honey looks really pretty. I've swatched it in stores. It's gorgeous, but I don't like need it right now, so I'm not going to add it to my collection until I feel like maybe I could go for some pukey tone neutrals. But just in general, again, I feel like the Naked palettes, they were the thing back then just because they kind of started off the trend of having actual palettes, but now there's like, the options are insane and those are so irrelevant. Alright guys, that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed a trip down memory lane talking about some of the cult favorite OG beauty dupe products and just talking some shit about them. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Make sure you are subscribed down below and also follow me on Instagram to see makeup looks like this posted sometimes. And if you made it to the very end of this video, you get the bonus moon. Love you.
what if I'm the monster that's been here all along?
Turns out you were.